how much silver is actually enough for financial freedom? Not in theory, not in dreams, but in real life. Because somewhere between survival and sovereignty, between fear and freedom, there's a quiet number that most people never calculate, and that number could change the direction of your entire future. Silver is not just a metal. It is time, stored in matter. It is effort, frozen into value. And right now, while most people chase noise, silver is waiting in silence. I remember a man I once met who worked for 30 years in the same factory. Honest, disciplined, loyal. He trusted the system. He saved in cash. He believed stability meant safety. Then inflation arrived without asking permission. His savings shrank while his labor stayed the same. He didn't lose money in the market. He lost it by standing still. Later, he told me something that stayed with me forever. He said, "I thought money was what I earned. I didn't realize money was what I protected." That was the day he began buying silver, slowly, quietly, consistently. Not because it was exciting, but because it was real. Silver doesn't promise overnight miracles. It offers something rarer: preservation, position, optionality. It sits between gold and everyday affordability, between protection and opportunity. And the real question isn't how much silver makes you rich. The real question is how much silver makes you independent from panic, from dependence, from fragile systems that can change while you sleep. Some investors measure wealth in dollars. Others measure it in ounces. The second group sleeps better. I once studied an entrepreneur who lost everything twice. Twice. Businesses collapsed, partnerships failed, markets shifted. But the third time, he structured his wealth differently. He kept liquidity in cash, growth in businesses, and security in metals. He said silver gave him something no stock ever did: peace without permission. When the market crashed, he didn't sell silver. He used it. When currencies weakened, his purchasing power stayed calm. When others panicked, he waited. Here's the truth most people won't tell you. Financial freedom is not a number in your bank account. It is the distance between you and desperation. It is how long you can stand without begging the system for air. And silver extends that distance. So how much is enough? Enough is when your silver holdings can protect months, then years, then choices. Enough is when you stop asking, what if everything collapses? And start asking, what opportunity will I take next? Enough is when your assets no longer shout, but quietly hold their ground. A young couple once began buying just 2 ounces a month. No excitement, no headlines, no social media. 10 years later, they had hundreds of ounces, not because they were rich, but because they were consistent. When medical bills came, they didn't borrow. When business opportunities came, they didn't hesitate. Silver didn't make them famous, it made them stable. And stability is the foundation of freedom. Think of silver like seeds. You don't eat them all today. You plant them, you protect them, you wait. And one day, you realize the harvest was happening quietly the entire time. Most people wait for perfect timing. Strategic people build positions. Most people wait for certainty. Strategic people prepare for probability. Silver is not a bet. It is a bridge. Here is a practical truth. You don't need thousands of ounces to start changing your future. You need discipline. You need patience. You need a mindset that values quiet progress over loud comfort. Buy regularly. Buy intentionally. Store safely. Think long term. Let silver become a habit, not a reaction. And here is the mindset shift that changes everything. Stop asking how high silver can go. Start asking how strong your foundation can become. Every ounce is a decision to step slightly outside the fragile story you were taught. Every ounce is a vote for resilience. Every ounce is a reminder that wealth is not built in applause, but in preparation. You don't need to explain it to everyone. You don't need approval. You don't need validation. You only need consistency. Because one day, when prices move, when systems shake, when people search for safety again, you won't feel lucky. You will feel ready. And readiness is freedom. So start where you are. 1 ounce, 2 ounces, 1 habit, 1 decision. Let silver teach you patience. Let it teach you perspective. Let it teach you that real wealth does not scream. It waits. And when you finally ask yourself how much silver is enough, you will realize the answer was never a number. It was a mindset that chose protection over pride, strategy over impulse, and freedom over comfort. Most people think wealth begins with a large amount of money, but it actually begins with a small, repeated decision that refuses to quit. Silver teaches this better than almost anything else because it does not seduce you with speed, it trains you with discipline. I once followed the journey of a school teacher who earned an average salary and never inherited anything, never traded stocks, never chased trends. Yet today she owns more real purchasing power than many people who once laughed at her quiet strategy. She started with a single silver coin, not because she believed it would make her rich, but because she wanted something real she could hold, something that could not be printed, something that would remind her every month that her future deserved respect. She bought one more the next month, then another, and over time, those coins became a mirror reflecting her consistency. And consistency is the language wealth understands best. Silver does not reward excitement, it rewards commitment. And that commitment slowly changes the way you think about money, risk, patience, and control. Each ounce becomes a boundary between you and financial panic, a small wall built against a world that constantly erodes value. You begin to notice that while prices change, while currencies fluctuate, while promises fade, silver remains honest in its weight and purpose. It does not promise you luxury, it promises you resilience. Investors who understand this stop asking how fast they can grow and start asking how long they can endure, because endurance is what turns ordinary people into financially unbreakable people. Think of silver as a personal reserve of time, because every ounce represents hours of human labor stored in a form that does not age the way paper does. When you hold it, you are not holding metal, you are holding effort, history, and future possibility in the same place. This mindset shifts everything. You stop wasting money on things that impress strangers and start converting it into assets that protect your freedom. You stop reacting emotionally to headlines and start responding strategically to opportunity. You stop measuring success by what you show and start measuring it by what you secure. Silver becomes less about price and more about position. Position in storms, position in negotiations, position in moments when others are forced to sell and you're able to wait. A young entrepreneur once said that silver saved his confidence when his business struggled, not because he sold it, but because he knew he still had something real no matter what happened, and that knowledge gave him the courage to rebuild instead of surrender. That is the invisible power of silver. It does not just store value, it stabilizes identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who prepares, not someone who hopes, someone who builds, not someone who wishes, someone who understands that financial freedom is not created by dramatic wins, but by silent foundations laid again and again, coin by coin, choice by choice, until your future quietly starts standing on something solid while the world continues moving on unstable ground. And in that awareness, you feel a different kind of strength growing that does not rush, does not beg, does not panic, and does not need permission to exist. People often believe financial freedom is about reaching a final number, but real freedom begins when fear slowly loses its control over your decisions. Silver plays a powerful role in this shift because it gives form to discipline and patience in a world addicted to speed. I once met a taxi driver who began buying small pieces of silver whenever he had extra cash, instead of spending it on temporary comforts. His friends called it useless metal. Years later, when his city faced economic pressure and work slowed down, he was the only one who did not feel trapped. He didn't become rich overnight, but he became calm, and calm is the first sign of freedom. He told me he never counted silver by price, only by protection, because each piece represented another week he could survive, without begging the system for help. That mindset changed how he approached life, business, and even risk, because when you know you have a cushion, you stop making desperate choices. Silver quietly trains you to think long-term in a short-term world. It teaches you that wealth is not built by reacting to every opportunity, but by committing to a strategy that respects time. Investors who succeed with silver do not chase spikes. They build positions. They do not panic in drops. They recognize discounts. They understand that markets move, but preparation stands still. One investor once said he never worried about whether silver would rise tomorrow, because he was more focused on whether he was building a future that could not be easily broken. Silver became his anchor, not his gamble. It gave him clarity when noise tried to confuse him. It gave him patience when others rushed. It gave him confidence when others hesitated. At some point, you realize that financial freedom is not about escaping work, but about choosing your direction without fear. Silver supports this realization because it stands between survival and sovereignty. I once followed the story of a small business owner who kept a portion of every profit in silver, not because he expected fast returns, but because he wanted his success to have a physical foundation. When a sudden crisis slowed his sales, he did not panic, because he knew part of his effort was stored safely outside fragile systems. That awareness gave him control over his emotions. And control over emotions creates control over outcomes. Silver teaches you that progress does not need applause. It needs structure. Each ounce becomes a silent agreement with your future, that you will not waste today for temporary comfort. You stop chasing shortcuts and start respecting processes. You stop comparing your journey with others and start protecting your own. Investors who understand silver rarely talk about it loudly because real security prefers privacy. They move slowly, but they move with purpose. They do not ask whether silver will save them. They ask whether their habits are strong enough to deserve saving. Silver becomes a mirror for your discipline, reflecting back what you consistently choose. It reminds you that wealth is not created in moments of excitement, but in seasons of patience. Over time, you notice a quiet confidence growing inside you, a confidence that does not depend on approval, headlines, or trends. It depends only on the knowledge that you are building something real, while others are still hoping for something fast. This confidence changes how you speak, how you plan, how you take risks, and how you walk away from situations that no longer serve your future. And without realizing it, you stop chasing financial freedom, because you are slowly becoming the kind of person who naturally lives closer to it. If this message helped you see silver differently, if it shifted even one thought in your mind, support this channel by liking this video, subscribing for more wisdom on wealth and freedom, and sharing it with someone who is still searching for stability in a fragile world, because the future belongs to those who prepare quietly, and silver is one of the quietest preparations you can make today.